it's what we're stuck with right now until we reshoot it. Welcome to Ask the Experts. This is where we are going to have some fun. It's the day before the jobs report, and we have a special guest star. I'm Jill Schlesinger.
I'm Jack Otter.
And guess who's joining us today, Jackson? We've got Matthew Rothenberg. He is a MoneyWatch blogger, editor-in-chief for The Ladder, the world's leading online service catering exclusively to the $100,000 plus job market.
That's right.
Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. So one day before the big August employment report, I don't know, it's just lucky you're here. It's not even as if we planned to have someone
just dropped. I was passing by.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, yeah, you were just.
And we had air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And let me just give a little bit of more background about Matthew. He previously worked at like all the companies that this company owned. That's basically what you need to know.
That's right.
Here's the other thing that you need to know. He wrote this book called, Roland doesn't like when I do this. He likes it better. Okay, You're Better Than Your Job Search. That's Matthew's book. What I noticed and what I promised to bust him about was that this book has an enormous number of acknowledgments. How many, how can I say this, asses are you trying to kiss in one acknowledgement page?
Well,
I think you said it.
I know it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just to put it right out there.
What is the deal? There's so many
probably
people.
150 people on that page.
It's ridiculous. Not every single one of these people was so important in this book.
A lot of people have helped us.
Jack?
I think that's how I want to write a book.
Well, first of all, Jack.
I mean, how many pages is it?
Jack, when you write your book, I want to make sure that first that I am mentioned.
Okay.
I mean, there's 2 whole pages of this, for God's sakes.
Is it 1 page per helper?
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of people whose butts Matthew's clearly kissing. And go out and look. This book is fun because it's easy to read and there's useful advice. So let's just do a little bit of the bad news first. Tomorrow's jobs report. Matthew, could you give us your crystal ball prediction?
My prognostication?
Yeah. It's going to be bad.
I don't have a crystal ball
But
on what's going on out in the overall job market. What we're seeing is that every week we're seeing a few more jobs come onto the site. It's a gradual recovery for us.
Okay.
Remember, we're dealing at the high end of the market.
Right.
We're working with companies that are looking to grow. They're looking for the people who can lead them to grow. And so we've been seeing more jobs.
Okay. Well, that's good. Jack, I don't think that's exactly what the data is going to show tomorrow. What do you think?
Well, the ADP numbers were bad, down 10,000. I guess the hope is, to the extent this is even a hope, that the government numbers will pull us into positive territory, some job growth.
No way.
No? You don't think so?
Freaking way.
Wow.
We're going to be negative. It's going to be ugly. And there's going to be like some ridiculous number of private sector jobs, like 25,000 that are created, and it's going to stink. But that said, it doesn't stink for everybody. It doesn't have to stink for you, by the way, because you can go out there and maybe hustle and get a job. And Matthew's going to basically in the next 15 minutes tell you how to get a job.
Because you're better than your job search.
Let me just do this again. Hold on a second.
Bring the cover out.
Hold on a second. This is like, I don't know if you ever, here we go. Woo. You know, when Eat, Pray, Love, the author was on Oprah, there was a huge backdrop where she just had the cover of Eat, Pray, Love in the backdrop for an hour. That's what we should do for you.
I got to carry one of those around with me.
Constantly.
Is really the solution.
If you've got a question for Matthew, send us an email right now. Ask the experts at moneywatch.com. You know, and then the reality is we have a bunch of questions for you, and we have questions from people who we know ourselves and, of course, from users as well. But I sort of was giving you a little gloomy outlook, but you're saying that, actually there are jobs in certain cities, and you put a great blog post up a week or so ago, the top 10 cities for high-end job seekers. And because MoneyWatch users run the spectrum, I know they're not always high-end, but, who doesn't want a high-end job? Okay? So, the list is something that is sort of interesting because I'm looking at it here, and it seems to me Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Boston, Seattle, these are pretty good places. But you really need super-duper skills for this, right, Matthew?
You need skills that you can prove to a company are going to help them to grow now. They've cut and they've cut, and it's been a horrible couple of years.
Yep.
There's no two ways around it. At this point, people are looking where they can grow. If you can prove to a company that you can help with that growth, you're in demand. We looked at that ranking just to give the ratio. There was like 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 1.
Yep.
That's all based on the ladder's information on how many job seekers we have for every job that we offer.
Oh, interesting.
So right now, we have 2 job seekers for every job in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
That's pretty good odds.
Yeah, and San Francisco. Of course, unfortunately for someone like me with no real skills, software, semiconductors, and IT. Kind of out of my skill set, buddy.
Well, my anthropology degree, and, that'll only take me so far. So,
I know.
But really what it's about is being able to reposition yourself, position yourself to prove what you can do for an employer.
Well, let me get into that for a second, because we have a question from a MoneyWatch user who says, I currently work in IT and am interested in changing fields. Is now a good time to look for a new job, or should I sit tight in the job I have? And let me add a caveat to that, since I am a career changer myself. Maybe it's not an either or. Maybe is it something in between that this guy should do?
The more that you want to change your career, the longer the search is likely to take. There's no two ways around it. Our rule of thumb is if you are going to make a lateral move with no major changes to your industry, to your geography, to your company, type of company, count on 5 months for a high-end job search. You should add a month for every one of those things that you want to change. And along the way, you've really got to work on how you sell your brand. If you know the term transferable skills, you got to boil down what it is that they can take and sell to that company. Because the company doesn't really care what you want to do. And that's one of the first mistakes that people make is they're trying to sell themselves, or they're trying to talk about what they want. Hiring company doesn't care what you want. They care about what they need.
Now, Jack, you sort of did a career change-ish. I mean, you went from print to online. Did you find that was happening naturally, or did you actually have to do something different?
Well, as you know, they came begging to me to hire me. So, it was a different kind of situation.
Who wouldn't, for God's sake?
Right.
You are a beggable kind of guy.
I think that in my case is a little bit unusual in that print journalists are streaming into the web. And so it's such a natural progression. Everyone's doing it. I was in the very fortunate position of having a boss who had my exact, or potential boss, and now actual boss, who had my exact career path. So he didn't see it as a detriment.
Right.
Had he been in the web world for 10 years, I would have looked like Tyrannosaurus Rex to him, and he may not have hired me, and I would have stumbled in that interview when I didn't know certain terms or something.
Ding,
so
ding,
I think that's an
ding.
issue.
Here comes a big suck-up moment for Jack sucking up to Eric. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, thank you.
He's on vacation. I hope he's not watching
He's so watching this.
Yeah.
We'll save it for him. I did the same transition. So
This brings up a couple of interesting points to me, though. One is on the resume, okay, especially for a career switcher. The tendency on the resume is to everyone has a sense of what they do well, what their achievements have been.
Right.
But isn't it crucial to think not what was great to me and my boss in this old industry, but what they're looking for in this new industry, and how can I tailor my resume specifically for this one job I'm looking for, and it may have to be different for another job you're looking for, right?
You're going to want to keep some consistency. You want a consistent story about what you've done for some very practical reasons. Well, you want to be able to keep your story straight.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I must be in Philadelphia.
The other fact of the matter is resumes have become as much about pieces of data as they are pieces of text that a human being is going to read. We've got applicant tracking systems that search keywords. If you try to put in two variant in good faith put two variant versions of your resume in to the same company. And hey, you're just emphasizing different things. If you don't do it right, the software may flag you as not telling the truth, and you could get knocked out of the park before a human being ever sees you. So handle that with caution. But yeah, absolutely, you want to be aware of what they're looking for and got to make the decision, is this fit even worth going for? And then make the decision of what you bring up front and say, this is the value I'm going to bring
Now, I have a question. I mean, obviously, there are millions of people who are out of work right now. Many of them have been out of work for months on end. 6.5 million people have been out of work for more than 27 weeks. What advice can you give to people who have been out of work for a long time, and are they just getting discouraged? I mean, are they just sort of throwing their hands up and saying, I can't do it anymore. I'm tired.
It's really hard to fight that sort of ennui, that sort of feeling of being.
Ooh, big word.
Wow, I like that. We haven't had ennui on Ask the Experts before.
So I was an anthro major, and then I was a French literature minor.
Maybe,
so,
maybe.
Yeah.
You're with the liberal arts people here. Don't worry. Who overpaid for our college educations.
So it's easy to start feeling beaten down on the job search. There's a couple of things working in your favor. Especially, it's kind of twisted, but in this economy, there's what people are calling job seeker forgiveness. Everybody's gone through a really difficult time right now. Employers know it. If you've been out of work for an extended period, there's a lot of good people who are in the same boat, and employers are going to be aware of that. What you've got to be able to do is talk about how you've been using the time. Volunteering can sometimes have an immediate benefit. You can get a job through that volunteer opportunity. If not, you can have a consistent narrative. That's the point. How did you use this time?
Right.
That really makes a difference.
I'm going to go to another user question for a second, because this is someone who's been unemployed for over a year. As I apply for jobs, I feel like I'm at a big disadvantage. Companies are more likely to want to hire someone who's currently employed. Is that true? If so, what should I do? How is this guy going to differentiate himself?
It's true.
It
is true
right.
that traditionally recruiters have looked to currently employed people first. It's not universally true. There's a tendency you're going to have to raise your game. Whether that means that you get involved in some other sort of way, like I'm saying, there's volunteer work, there's consulting, there's some education opportunities. You're keeping busy, you're keeping involved. That accomplishes a couple of things here. One, it says, I'm engaged. I care about this. I care about my career, and I'm keeping it rolling. Number two, it structures your days. That's a very important. That's a very important thing to.
Right.
To,
it's like, well, what did you do with your long-term unemployment? Well, I watched The Wire in its entirety, The Shield, and caught up on 30 Rock for the last few seasons. Not high on the list.
The answer, yes, all of those DVD packages that I caught up on. That's not a good answer.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. I mean, it feels self-perpetuating. What are the absolute things that you can say, do these things? You're unemployed. Here are the things you need to do. I want real actionable advice right here, right now.
Okay.
By Matthew.
So you need to get a resume that's an ad. It's not a manual. Nobody's ever bought a car based on the manual that's sitting in the glove compartment. They look and they see an advertisement. Even salespeople don't always know. Even HR people that we talk to don't know how to sell themselves in the HR community.
Interesting.
It's amazing.
Well, let's go back to sales for a second. So sales is a quantifiable, or trading even, right? These are quantifiable things. I made this much money. I brought in this much revenue. But they're like in HR, how do you do that? How do you make an advertisement?
Right. So what it comes down to is, did you create more revenue, or did you create more efficiency?
Okay.
That's the math.
Okay.
That's all there is to it.
I like that.
Did I introduce something into the process that sped it up, sped the close time?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an HR pro. I was able to close more jobs, keep more people in those positions for longer, save the company
X dollars.
X dollars.
Now, Jack, how would we translate that for journalism? Wrote the most articles. I mean, you've interviewed people. So what makes someone stand out in your mind when you're doing that?
Well, I think one thing that you touched on without saying it was creativity. I mean, figuring out a new way to keep that employee, whatever it is creativity. So in our business, which is somewhat of a creative business, then obviously that's key. So, you know, did you come up with a new series on something? Did you find a new way to do something? And in the internet world, of course, it's the Wild West. So how did you bring in more traffic? What new thing did you do? How did you use Twitter to boost page views? Yeah, but I think what it all comes down to in that realm is creative solutions to problems. Because also, in terms of the employer looking for something, what they're looking for is for you to solve their problems.
That's
I
right.
mean, as a boss, the worst thing someone can do, in my opinion, is to come to you with a problem. Oh, I can't do what you did because this. And the obstacle might be valid, but then I want to hear, and here's how I'm going to solve the problem.
Funny you should say so, because one of our top pieces of advice is talk to that potential employer and say, how am I going to make your job easier?
Yeah.
What is having
What do
me
you
in the
need?
building going to improve your situation?
Well, what is it? Tell us some of the mistakes that people make. I mean, because I like it. I like the resume ad. I like how are you going to drive? How are you going to bring more revenue and more efficiencies? But what are the things that people really need to avoid? Because I obviously, when I was an employer, there were things that just turned me off immediately, either in an interview or in a resume. And sometimes it was palpable, and sometimes it wasn't. But what are the mistakes that you have seen?
There's some fundamental confusion about what the role of a recruiter is. That's an interesting one to look at. The recruiter doesn't work for you, even if it's an independent recruiter. I'm surprised at how many people believe that recruiters are there to service them, that they're the customer.
Right. It's like the
somehow.
real estate agent works for the seller.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you want to do everything you can to make yourself valuable to that recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, they work for the company.
Right.
Mistaking an interview under any circumstances, and as you get more senior, you'll have more of these where it's a lunch interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's a friend of a friend. You'll go out for drinks. Mistaking that for for chat. It's not. It's not. You've got to have your 30-second elevator pitch ready, right? We know what an elevator pitch is.
Well, explain it for our users. Of course,
So,
we do because we're.
I got in the elevator downstairs here. I know my way up here pretty well.
Yep.
I used to work around here. Those 10 floors, I should be able to explain what I do.
And what differentiates you from the next guy?
I turn content into profit in any media.
I like that. Jack,
Nice,
we got to
yeah.
get a tagline like that.
That's a good idea. And what is also great about that is if you sit down and you try to come up with your pitch and you just can't do it, that might tell you something about what you're doing on the job.
That's right.
And it can really help you at the office. Wow, okay, I got to
That's right.
I got to do what I need to do so that pitch is
That's
the
right.
truth.
I'd suggest that the skills that you pick up on the job search are things that you can use on the job.
I found something kind of interesting when I was doing my career change, and that was a piece of advice that someone gave me that was great because, I was managing money and dealing with clients, and I was just, someone said to me, tell me a little bit about what you do, and I talked about it, and then I talked about, and part of what I do is I'm the head of marketing, so I do television and radio, and I guess I was talking, and I was really excited about that. And this guy said to me, it's so obvious that's what gets you going. Why don't you do more of that or figure out how to do that long term because you're kind of over managing money. And I was like, oh, ding, 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 ding. Really, it was like a moment where I said, oh, yeah, that's right. This is so much more fun than dealing with people who are upset when the market goes down. It's not as lucrative.
Yeah, he didn't tell you about that extra zero that you were sacrificing. Yeah.
Luckily.
Digits, midgets.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that there is something to be said also for when you are in either a crappy job or something you're just not happy with, before you just jump and but to really critically look and say, what is it that I do like to do? And what is it that I can be psyched about in those 10 floors where I can create a pitch and do something where it's like, wow, this is the fun part. We're all going to do stuff we don't like to do in our jobs. Of course, Jack and I don't have that at all. Eric, you watching? We love every single part of our job. But the thing is that there are parts that you really do love, and maybe that leads you to your next career. Maybe that leads you to the next place. Do you agree with that?
This is true. This is absolutely true. You got to figure out what makes you passionate and what you can, what's going to bubble up and what you take with you. If you want to change some circumstances, what's that value that you bring? And what's that thing that's going to get you up and get you going?
Yeah. We have one user question before we get to the end of the program. And here we go. I've been offered a new job, which I'm excited about, but I think the salary is too low. How much room do I have to negotiate in the current market?
It's always hard. It's a game of poker.
Right.
This market is heating up at the managerial level. If they want you, they want you. Even if they want you, they're likely to be offering something less than
what you think you probably could get in a different kind of market.
I think that there's no harm, and there's a lot of good in going back and showing that you can press for more. There's no reason to be just reactive and just accept that. And if you start off on a foot where you feel like you're being inadequately compensated, that's not the right place to start anyway.
Right. All right, so we can ask for a little bit more. And we can make sure that one thing you can do if you're looking for a job is to, Roland, you're going to have to put this up. So, pay attention here. He's not looking. Here we go. Put this up.
There we go.
Put this up. Come on, the book
That's
is
it.
up. Where is it? Okay,
I'm
wrong
looking
shot. Wrong shot. There it is.
Oh, okay.
You're better than your, I should have gotten a manicure. Sorry. You're better than your job search. There it is. Who's this other guy? Mark. We don't care about him. Let me just get rid of his name. Hold on a second. It's over here. Okay, there it is by Matthew.
We care. We care a great deal
he's one of the
about
150.
Mark.
Come on.
I know. He's one of the 122,000 people you acknowledged in your
Let's
book.
talk about two quick resources on MoneyWatch.com.
Let's do it because I have the website up. Roland, check this out. We've got the Ultimate Job Security Guide, the award-winning piece that we did, that it has new rules for job security and resume and makeovers. And
we actually have a resume, and we show what's wrong with it and how it could be improved.
so this is so cool. This is on MoneyWatch.com, the Ultimate Job Security Guide.
And for a rare speck of humor in this otherwise kind of unhappy subject, there's the Interview Goofs Twitter feed. It's called @InterviewGoofs. And that is actual HR people have sent us mistakes that people have made in interviews, and I think it's pretty funny.
One time, I will just say, leave you with this. There is one time I had this great interview process with a guy that we were going to hire as our CFO. It was a very high-paying job, and everything was going so well, and we were going to offer him the job. We went out to lunch. And he was such a slob, and it was so disgusting to look at him at lunch that I pulled my partner aside. I said, we cannot offer this guy a job because if he's messy at the table, I'm scared that he's going to be messy with the numbers.
Wow.
That was it. Sorry, dude. You lost the job.
Order the fish, not the spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, and watch with the salads because that stuff splatters all over the place. Very nice and neat, and don't eat too much. That's the other thing. I hate to be girly about it, but don't do that.
It's not a meal. It's an interview. And if you're hungry afterwards, fine. Go eat something else.
Right,
Think
go grab
of
a
it
burger.
as an interview.
I'm very dainty at lunch.
Oh,
At
yes.
business lunches.
Matthew Rothenberg, MoneyWatch blogger, editor-in-chief of The Ladders, worldwide superstar of anything employment-related for the plus $100,000 a year job market. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'll be adding that to the top of my resume.
I think you should. And I would like an acknowledgement in the next book. Jack Otter, I also would like an acknowledgement in your book.
You'll get it.
That would be fantastic.
Of course, you have to do a lot of work to get it, but...
And we acknowledge you for watching today. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, it'll be on Wednesday next week because I got a little Rosh Hashanah situation brewing here. And, I got to be inscribed in the book of life. What do you mean? You don't know what Rosh Hashanah is?
I'm kidding.
You know what that
It's
is.
the little wasp thing. Yeah.
I know. He's very
You got
cute.
going, yeah.
Anyway, Happy
Jack
New
and
Year,
Jill.
everybody. Here we go. Thanks, Matthew. It was great. Tune in
you.
next week. Great to see you. I like